Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I am your sensei, your griot, to tell you a story. I'm here at the library, and I couldn't get on, and a young man came by and helped me out, and he was very interesting. And he was here with his keeper, and I didn't want to go live, but he left a poem on my email. And that, if you want to get a hold of me, the dude awake 42 at Gmail, the dude awake 42 at Gmail. And it's still February. It's still my birthday. Still my birthday. And you can send anything you want off to my little PayPal account. And when they ask who, and you say the dude awake 42 at Gmail. Hey there, Jane. So here, listen to this poem this kid wrote. And he looked like he was 12, but he was 32 years old. But here's his dream. It's called A Perfect Union. One love, one heart, one soul, one spirit. A sky full of clouds, the oceans cry. The days pass us by like we have no time. When my wings arrive, I shall take flight. Through the dark nights, fear, sadness, we can make it through with the light. When one path closes, our other path opens with the jolt of lightning our hearts. Combined with the bushel of roses, I shall take a vow and keep your heart near mine. A passionate flame burns bright within. My world folds with you in my mind. I shall never question your guidance. I shall take your hand and hold it tight. We take this vow upon your heart, a pray we never part. The hope I have stands tall and strong. Our journey has reached its peak of purity, and here we stand with thought out mind, flow, flower is only as beautiful as it's watered. As we mature to fit our soul, we have to water the spirit's well being of our own mind and heart. Don't play a game you cannot win, because over time the gate will fade and you will too. Be dust. Time, let's see. A game you cannot win, because we have to water the spirit well being of our own mind and heart. Don't play a game you cannot win, because over time that game will fade and you will be dust. Don't despair with your heart.
Oh, it's nice.
Burnt the bridges, burnt have broken your soul, but always we live. Own good or bad, we fought really hard. So take this key and hold it tight, never fall. Far from the fight of rose stands beautiful. Through its thorns we see the beauty in your eyes. I say I love you, and I mean it. A flower is only as beautiful as it's watered. As we mature to fit our soul, we have to water the spirit well being of our own mind and heart. Don't play a game you cannot be, because we become we have to water the spirit well being of our own mind and heart. Don't play a game you cannot win, because over time that game will fade and you will be dust. Don't disappear with your heart. Burnt the bridges, burnt have broke your soul, but you also your soul, but all no, burnt the bridges, burnt have broke your soul, but alas, we live on in a march of your own good or bad. We fought really hard, so take this key and hold it tight. Never fall far from the fight. A rose stands beautiful through its thorns. We see the beauty in your eyes. I say I love you, and I mean it. Ugh. So that was a poem written by a kid who had an alphabet of, what the medical model would say dysfunctions. And I say that it's his beauty of his heart. And he had his keeper with him. And, she was there sitting, analyzing me while I was pontificating on the universal worldview. Um, and, my griotness can sometimes get under the skin of those who are matrons of the suburban motif of the scholastic, right? The poem is lovely, yeah, and it foreshadows the beauty of this guy, right? And basically, the people have him, shackled. He's on all kinds of drugs. He can't work because he wants to be a chef. And I said, well, man, this town's you should go get a job. He said, well, I can't get around, meaning he can't get around without his overseer, right? And so, and that's her job, right? And she's there overseeing. And I told her the story of my corporate life and that I was 460 pounds. And she is, morbidly obese. She's probably 200 something. And, I told her that I died in a plate of spaghetti and that I died many times. And the kid said, so have I. And I can just watch her body language go on. And, and I read her hand, and in the middle of it, she put her hand like in her coat. So, um, so here I'm at the library, and I had breakfast with my good friend Roger, who is probably in his 90s, and he's seen the world. He came from a little town out there on the prairie. His parents gave him up. He was like, a slave boy, a white slave boy working on a farm, and then he kind of went to his. He found his mother, and he went to her, and then she turned him over to her sister, and he kind of did all of that, and then World War II broke out. He was a teenager, and he joined the army just to get the heck out of Dodge, right at the end of the war, like 1945, and so. He was an interesting guy. He learned languages really fast. So he was in Germany as the Cold War was getting started. So I've been talking to him about those adventures and his connection with the Nazis and how we went full bore into the Nazi world. And it's let's see. Invented the word morbidly obese may be an absolute against those physically challenged. And when you live in a sociopathic world, the only people who can seem to be normal are the other sociopaths. So anyone who is going and complaining about the sociopathic world, they usually get pegged, right? The round hole in the square box. And so here we are at the library. Um, This used to be my hangout, and they got rid of it. Used to have a really great little restaurant right there. No longer restaurant, right? It's gone, right? And that restaurant, did a lot to make this a community. I mean, there was always people in here. Now there's nobody here, right? Nobody. And it's sad, This is again, the microcosm of what's going on, right? So the kid was really beautiful, and he had a minder, a watcher, and soon that girl will be replaced by a robot, right? And if she isn't already. And so, again, I've been watching, Gene Roddenberry's Earth Final Conflict, and that's on YouTube, and it's free. And Gene Roddenberry was always, look what he did with Star Trek, 20 years, 30 years before, the smartphone, he had the flip phone, right? So, and, before the microwave, he had the, device that made your meal for you, And so he was a futurist, I could say anything. And during World War II, he worked at, the Rad Lab. So he saw a lot of stuff ahead of its time. And he didn't want to sign on like Aleister Crowley had to, And as Mr. What's his name, who invented Scientology, all these guys were over there, in the Rad Lab at Bletchley Park, and were part of that whole demeanor of the paperclip and the Thule Society of Technology, So it's an interesting time we live in, and basically what I see is that the reason Jack got whacked in '63 was his understanding of the alien agenda, right? And that, so if you go watch the Roddenberry's Earth Final Conflict, you see that aliens have been here for at least 200,000 years and have been tweaking us, right? And now we're really being tweaked. And like I said, between now and the 4th of July, disclosure on the version of the TSA, and the Defense Department and the CIA. CIA's been given $60 billion to investigate the alien and what's going on. You really give that to the CIA? Come on. And so we're just going to get an agenda, right? And what better enemy or friend to have than someone who's so superior to us, So the movie Independence Day is one wing of that corporate story, and E.T. Is the other wing. So that's what's going to happen between now and 4th of July. And 4th of July, basically, E.T. is going to land on the front lawn. And I bet you dollars to donuts, they will look a lot like the Talons in Roddenberry's Earth Final Conflict. And so, or a lot like the good-looking Nazis, So anyway, that's that part of the agenda. The other part of the agenda is while we're trying to deal with that, and the world will be in a flutter over that, there'll be some kind of X-flare or some kind of event that will take down our total infrastructure, just, and it will be replaced. Our our new friends will say, "Oh, don't worry about it. Here's 0 point energy, and oh, here's point to point transportation and communication. You don't need a car. All you need is this little device that looks like your cell phone, and it'll be everything. It'll connect straight. It'll be your best friend. It'll be connected into your mind. You'll be able to have holographic sex. You'll be able to be anything. The Spielberg movie, first first player. All of these things are just to get us familiar with what's being rolled out. So that's the story. That's what's going on. That's what's right in front of us. And what are you going to do about it? What's the world you want to have? You are the decider, and so that's where we have to start. She sounds like a delightful song, right? Yep, pretty much. But Big Pharma loves morbidly. I don't understand. Up until 1980, the American diet was worse than what it's defined as now. Everyone's so low. I'm eating low fat, and I'm how can someone who says they're a vegan gain weight? And like amazingly, just ridiculously amount of fat, right? If they're vegan, how are they? Really? Soya green, it's people. You know, um, it's not like, oh, this stuff's going to happen to us. No, gang, it is happening, and it has been happening to us. Oh, since the beginning of the Holy Roman Empire. So maybe I would maybe go back to Babylon. Because they're the guys who invented fractionalized money. Anyway, so um, I just wanted to jump on and read that poem to you. Big Pharma playing with food. Yeah, they're all in it together. Soya green, it's people. And Sumerian, the term God was really this character named Bachi Ball. They called him Ball, and I call him Bachi. And he was basically, an insectoid who just wormed its way into your spirit and ate you from the inside out. And that's Ball, translated to God. And why is God reversed dog? Because that's the true spirit of the unconditional loving, is our dog. And our cat too. See, the cat though reads, dogs just want, I love you, man, I love you. Yeah, I understand. You're fucked up. I understand. But I still love you, right? Cat wants to love you, but can see who you are. Dog can too, but dog has unconditional forgiving love, right? And if you take it into your heart, that unconditional love, you can't do anything wrong. And that's why people beat their dogs, because the dog is so loving that it makes the person feel terrible about themselves. But if you follow the path, that's why I've always had dogs, because they were great. They didn't want to be the alpha dog. I'd be the alpha dog. So the alpha dog is the guy who gets shot first. But your dog will jump in the way of that bullet, right? But he doesn't want the responsibility, right? And so if you pick up on the dog's unconditional forgiving love and you reflect it back to the dog, just like the burning bush, is a work in progress and is looking at us as its reflection. And that's why in the Old Testament, Gob was such a bad dude, because he was just looking at our reflection. So Yes, that's what the dog says. Uh, uh, well, like I said, I was pushing 500 pounds. Now I'm at 210. You know, so I've been there. I know it. I died in a plate of spaghetti. They were going to chop my legs off and crack my heart just to make 300 grand, and I wouldn't let them. And then they didn't give me any. Yep, dog is God spelled backwards. Yep, this man's best friend. Yep, exactly. That's why I'm a dog boy. Yeah. And all my dogs, I've had lots of dogs. I've had about 15 different dogs, and they've all lived to old age, or I found them a home where they needed to be the dog. There were about 4 of my dogs I put in other people's homes because we'd been together for years. They had become great masters of understanding human nature, and to do more good than just to hang out with me, they and usually the 4 dogs that I had that I passed on to other people were sons or daughters of my mama dog. I've had 5 mama dogs, and when mama dog died, and they were the only, the other pups I put into other homes when they were small, but usually the runt is the one that I would keep, and that one became, a Buddhist monk, and so the 4 that I put in other people's homes were with that, meaning they had been with me for 5, 6 years. They grew up with a mama dog and me. And then when you read Legend or Legacy, I think it's Legacy, Bella and Homer are in that story. And I explained that relationship quite deeply. So anyway, again, I'm going to go back on. I want to go. I'm almost home, and I want to go back there and start cooking and make dinner, and I haven't really cooked anything for John for a couple of days since he was so unreceptive. So I think he might be receptive. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to be there for, I don't think I'm going to come down until, maybe tomorrow. I'm not seeing what the weather is. But if it's cloudy, rainy, snowy for the next few days, I'm going to stick up at the hill. And then probably it's supposed to next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, supposed to be sunny and warm. So I'll be on the bob because I'm visiting people. And like I had breakfast with my friend Raj and this morning, and that was a fun little show until the guy wanted to turn, his thing up to screaming loud. So I couldn't hear Raj anymore. So I went on my way. So anyway, that's the story. Well, he bounces back and forth from manically ecstatic to suicidal unhappy, right? And things somewhat in between. So I met the other day a really amazing Libra. She was like rock solid, and when a Libra is rock solid, they're the best sign going because they got everything in them, and so Libras have great, but they have to be disciplined and focused and rock solid, and then they're great, And so I had a great conversation with her, and I read her like a book, and she's managing a big supermarket, and anyway, so it's really nice because This place had a nice little place you could have your lunch, and we sat down and talked, and people could come and ask her questions. But she was the head numero uno manager of the big gigantic supermarket, and so we talked and talked and talked and talked, and people couldn't believe, because she's always all over the place. And for about an hour and a half, we just sat at one little place. And twice we got up, and I had to walk. So I have to go. So we went into the meat department in the back. We went over this department and talked, and I just kind of stayed with her. And she was giving me the big tour of the corporate dynamic. And then I gave her my insights of how she could do better. And she she bought me lunch. She bought me a couple of coffees. And I have a new friend. And it was quite interesting to meet a totally realized Libra, and totally realized anything. Like, I'm not a totally realized Al Bob. I'm about 80% totally realized. The other 20, I'm a moron, right? But I know it when I am, and I just go into prayer and meditation. So, and see what's going on, right? And so when I was talking to these folk, the keeper kind of had my attention, and I kind of I was asking her questions about what she's supposed to be doing, and she just had the scholastic response, and then I would give her the more thoughtful, scholarly response by X, Y, and Z psychologists or philosophers, and she heard of most of them, but she never read any of them. So anyway, but she's happy at being the prison guard, So anyway, and she was, I looked at her on her deep side, and she was a kind person. She wasn't there are a lot of people who have that job who are cruel, mean, right? But she was kind. And the guy, he was the sweetest, sweet guy. And, a few things I let him read some of my story. He goes, "You're like Shakespeare." And I said, "Well, I'm very pleased to hear you say that. That's very kind of you to say." But I do like Willie the Shake. But he goes, "And I love the way you misspell everything, and you do it on purpose." I mean, this guy actually picked up on the metaphors of what I was doing. Very few people do that. This guy was like, he goes, "The way you use punctuation is amazing. It's the way that whole paragraph was one run-on sentence, but it wasn't." And I said, "Okay, so you must be a bard, a poet." He goes, "Yes, I'm a poet." I said, "Well, keep writing, kid." So anyway, it was quite interesting, and today has been a very blessed day, and it's only 1 p.m. right here, right now, so it's a good time to say, I love you guys, and I'll leave you with a prayer. We're going to go with the Hail Mary. Hail Mary, full of grace, Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Oh, put Mother Mary's love in your heart every day and every way, and one of your ventricles, and the other one put, Father Sky's love, right? And in your feet, Mother Earth's, every day you will be blessed. So I'll talk to you later, around 5-ish. Ish. Hope you well. Keep you later. Emotions can run amok. That's why you need to think with your heart and feel with your head. So when someone says something mean or cruel or does any of that, instead of you letting your fight or flight take over, you kind of go, so why did that person do that? And why did they say that? And what's really going on? And that's think with your heart. So when you're looking at that, how to fix your carburetor, instead of just looking at the manual on your phone, you kind of go into more empathetic kind of space where you can feel why I could fix, Xerox machines when I worked for Grandpa Xerox was that, I wasn't wearing the suit, I had worked with those machines enough to know how they should, um, sound. And I knew how they should smell. When I told this one guy that just doesn't smell right, he goes, "What are you talking about?" Well, it was right. You could smell the current in the toner field, meaning why the Xerox machine is so interesting. Didn't need a mimeographic plate. It just had that light that goes over it. What it is, you put your piece of thing on it, and light, really bright light, so it causes like a TV camera to look at it. But beyond that, it causes the real difference between what you wrote and the white paper to appear in its memory electrically, right? And so very similar to what your eyeball does. And then the toner, where the copy is made, it puts the electrostatic charge on that plate, and the toner goes over it and just sticks to where the words are, right? And then the piece of paper goes over it. And then it goes into a bright light that heats it and cooks it on the piece of paper and then spits it out. And I could anyway, tell that what was wrong by that process that I just described, by the smell of the toner being too hot or too cold, the smell of the bright light getting the image, right? And that too, if it was too bright, too hot, it would, do things to the paper that you could smell, and you could smell it. So I got that from hanging out with dogs all those years, So I have a dog's nose, especially for electrical environments. So anyway, I will see you later, alligator in a while, crocodile. I love you guys. Stay well.